cheat. It's impossible to avoid being cheated on. Beyonce got cheated on, so what hope is there for you? This video will tell you not only why that's not true, but what you can do to avoid being cheated on. So if that sounds interesting, make sure that you watch the very end because I'm going to talk about three kind of categories of men who cheat, and as well as how to learn a little bit more about how to make yourself completely cheater proof. And if you don't know who I am, hello. My name is Diana Bando. I'm a licensed attorney, I'm a nervous system expert, and I'm a certified life coach who helps highly driven professionals win in their careers and life and health and all the areas without having to compromise and in ways that prevent them from burning out. So if that sounds like something you want to know about, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any videos. So it is currently July 23rd. And one of the things that has been discussed a lot on social media is the astronomer CEO, or now former CEO, who got caught cheating on his wife at a Coldplay concert. And it's brought up a lot of what I am experiencing as fear-based and judgment-based conversations about cheating. And, the reason I wanted to talk about it on my channel is because when I'm looking at these comments, especially from women, there's a sense of hopelessness that I'm detecting. And maybe I'm totally like off base, and that's fine. But I wanted to just shed some light on what's going on, so that those who care to, step into their power don't have to feel hopeless and don't have to feel like it's impossible to have a monogamous relationship or marriage if that's what they want. And the truth is, having a monogamous marriage is about two things. It's about choosing the right person and maintaining the relationship the right way. So if you don't choose the right person, then regardless of what you do, like, you probably won't have a monogamous marriage. But even if you do choose the perfect person for you, if you do not properly maintain your marriage, it's highly likely that if you've married someone who's attractive and has options, highly likely that infidelity will happen at some point. Does not mean that they'll have any interest in ever leaving you. They probably won't. In fact, when a married man cheats, it's usually because he doesn't want to leave his wife, because if he wanted to leave his wife, he'd just leave. So it doesn't mean that the marriage is over. It doesn't mean he's not interested, but it does mean that there's a crack in the foundation. And one of the things that I do is I help couples restore those cracks so that, it doesn't have to be an issue anymore. I believe that infidelity is literally not even worth thinking about. And if you know how to spot people who are more likely to cheat, and you understand how to maintain your relationship so that it's less susceptible to infidelity, then you can also be someone who just doesn't worry about it. One of the metaphors I like to use for a marriage is that they're like an exotic car. So if you know anything about specialty cars, exotic cars, they have a level of maintenance that is unlike the levels for regular cars. And so in other videos, if you want me to talk about it on YouTube some more, I can. But I talk about how the three big things for maintaining the exotic car that is a marriage are speaking each other's love languages, which is like putting gas in the car, understanding how to speak each other's apology languages, which is like oil changes, and then making sure that there's energetic polarity between the masculine and feminine, which is like getting the car aligned. So if you want to know more about that, say something in the comments so I can know that there's interest in those topics, and then I can use that to think about what content to talk about next. So let's get right into it. The three main kind of categories that I want to talk about of men who cheat. And the reason I want to talk about them is so that you can think about this as you're going through the world, as you're going through, if you're single, love and dating, if you're already married, if you're evaluating whether or not to stay or go, and the risk profile for infidelity of your person. So the first kind of big category I want to talk about, and yes, I am looking at my notes, is the wounded masculine, or the power seeker type. So that type of man will cheat to feel powerful, validated, in control. And I think that this is, of the types I'm going to talk about, like the most attractive, because he's successful on the surface. He's charming, likely well dressed. He knows what to say. He's very comfortable. This is the guy that is probably going to like sweep you off your feet and like make you feel like you're like on drugs, like in an alternate dimension. And so, you know, the kind of red flag with him is that he craves attention, but not intimacy. So it's very hard to get close. It's very hard to get past the surface. But they want a lot of attention. And it doesn't even have to be from you, just in general. Like they're not happy if they're not the center of attention. And if you're married to one of these types and you happen to command more attention than him, that will just activate his ego. I think about Princess Diana. If you're old enough to remember her love and life. If you're not, watch The Crown. You can see it there. But, you know, she was kind of like a, you know, girl from nobility, but like not really known. And then becomes this princess who kind of overshadowed the whole royal family, and they hated that. But her partner kind of fits this archetype, the prince. So anyway, the wounded masculine power seeker. Like this is not a healthy, healed masculine man who's looking to protect and provide. This is a masculine man who's seeking to fill a void with attention, power, status, fame, rather than doing the inner work to heal. Type number 2 is the conflict avoider. So this is the nice guy. And, you know, this one is a little hard because on the surface, he just seems so nice and so easy to get along with and so unproblematic. But he often doesn't know how to express dissatisfaction. And so rather than giving you the communication that you need to understand that something's wrong, he just he seeks connection elsewhere. And that elsewhere doesn't necessarily mean an affair, but it can. Because anytime a person in a relationship is looking for, you know, things that should be met within the relationship elsewhere, you're opening the door to infidelity, even if you weren't intending to, even if it was just like, oh, I just need, you know, creative outlet, a hobby. It opens the door because you can meet people through that outlet or hobby that you form inappropriate emotional connections with that lead to an affair. And then number 3 is the unregulated man or the chaos addict. This is like the bad boy. I have dated a chaos addict. I've been in love with a couple of them. They're fun. They're fun to date. The problem is, you know, a man who is addicted to chaos will be a chaotic partner. So the relationship will have extremely high highs, extremely low lows. There'll be drama. There'll probably be other women calling you. His nervous system is addicted to intensity. So there might be drug use, there might be sex addiction, but there's like a need for drama to just feel alive. Without it, they're just bored. And, you know, stable, healthy, grounded love, the kind that you can actually build a life on, feels super boring to them. Like, boring. They're not interested. So, the red flag kind of with them is that they will rush intimacy, then pull away. So that hot, cold, you know, all of them gone, that kind of leaves you feeling dizzy if you don't understand the game. And so why does this matter, especially for women? It matters because you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are, and you entertain what feels familiar. So if your nervous system is used to receiving love, affection, validation in a way that's inconsistent, hot, cold, off, on, then these men that are hot, cold, off, on, inconsistent will feel like home. They'll feel like a soft place to land when really they're super toxic and dangerous. And so if you are going to date at all, and you come from a background where you know, felt like in order to feel loved, you had to be perfect. In order to feel loved, you had to overperform, or you had to pick up the pieces for adults that weren't capable of allowing you to be a child. You are more susceptible to becoming attracted to these types of men that will be hot, cold, intense, ghost, because that's what's normal to you. And so the solution, the antidote, is to heal. And it's to learn how to regulate your nervous system, which is something I teach inside my courses and private coaching. But just to explain what that means right now. So your nervous system has two parts. There's the stress response and the relaxation response. The stress response is also referred to as the sympathetic nervous system. Relaxation is autonomic nervous system. If you're healthy and quote unquote regulated, you can go back and forth between sympathetic and autonomic depending on what is happening throughout the day. And if you're dysregulated, what happens is your body gets stuck in that sympathetic stress response. So you're stuck in the fight or flight or freeze or fawn, and you're responding to everything like it's a threat. Everything is a source of danger, as opposed to just the things that are a big deal. And when you are in that kind of fight or flight state, these men who are walking red flags, you're a vibrational match for them. So it feels like, okay, like this is love, this is the vibe. Whereas the people who are stable and won't traumatize you and won't lie and gaslight and play games, you just won't be attracted to them. You'll either feel bored or you'll feel super, super scared that, them being so nice and so wonderful and so consistent can't possibly last. And so you'll be constantly be waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so going back to my notes, so that is why I created a program. Well, I've created a couple, but one of the ones I think is super helpful just for like getting kind of your toes wet and like an intro to this world is my course called the Unforgettable Woman Formula. Because it talks about feminine embodiment in a way that you probably haven't heard before, and kind of the three energies that you need to attract a healthy masculine partner. And when you embody those, these guys that I'm talking about, they might be physically attracted to you, but they're going to quickly detect that you are not a good use of their time and that they need to find another victim. Which is good for you. Not all rejection is a bad thing. Sometimes rejection is God's protection. But the other thing is when you embody like these three energies, the three feminine energies I talk about inside the program, you also become way less attracted to inconsistency, because in order to embody them, you yourself have to be very consistent with the work that you're doing internally. And the more work that you do to be consistent, the more consistency becomes attractive to you. The more you notice integrity, the more you notice, like, wow, like this person said that they were going to do, they said that they were going to call, they said that they're going to meet me this time, and they showed up and there was no drama about it. And if they aren't going to, they communicate and let me know that plans have changed. So inside, I'm like my notes, inside you'll learn things like how to quickly detect the traits of a man who's likely to cheat. So inside that course, I talk about the 11 factors that make a man most likely to cheat. And because I could talk about this all day, I will go ahead and let you know that the number one factor, and I talk about it in more detail in there, is that his dad was a cheater. If his dad was a cheater, it is highly, highly, highly likely that this man will be a cheater as well. But the inverse is true. If his father wasn't a cheater, or if the father equivalent or the men that he looks up to were not cheaters, he's highly unlikely to cheat. So, as you're getting to know people, flirting, dating, vetting, whatever, one of the first things that you want to ask in a roundabout way is, did his dad cheat? And obviously you don't want to come right out and say that, but just kind of circular way. And then ask questions that help you detect whether the men in his life value loyalty, fidelity, legacy, and whether that is something that's seen as honorable or whether cheating is kind of winked at. And it's really important you want to ask about the other men in his life so he doesn't feel like he's telling on himself, but the values of the men that he surrounds himself with will tell you everything you need to know about his values. So it's it was free. But if you don't know this already, then you definitely want to get this course. I also talk about how how to shift your energy so that high value men see you as a category of one. So I mentioned the three energies. I'll just go ahead and tell you what they are. It's goddess, mother, and sex kitten. I explain it in more detail in there, but most women show up when they're around men with one of three rather than 3 of 3. And when you only show up with 1 of 3, you're more likely to get put into a category other than long-term woman. So if you're just in the sex kitten energy, you're a plaything. If you're just the mother energy, it's like, good girl, oh, we'll leave her in the friend zone. If you're just goddess energy, like, you know, he might date you, he might make you the girlfriend, but he's not thinking this is like all of it, like the mother of my children, you know, my sexual fantasy filled, later in the street, freaking about all the things, want to give her my last name, want to make a life with her. It's having all 3, and that's what makes you 1 of 1 to a healthy man who is, you know, values family legacy and is not likely to traumatize you by cheating with his HR lady at a Coldplay concert. So, with all that said, this is already a little longer than I planned, but if you're ready to become the kind of 1 of 1 woman who can trust her instincts, who can quickly detect, you know, who to give a chance to and who's not for her. If you're ready to do that work, then you are going to love the Unforgettable Woman Formula. And once you're inside there, there is, you have access to one of my courses that you can't get straight from my website. It's called Luxury Love. So it's a dating course. So the Unforgettable Woman Formula is for anyone who wants to be the feminine partner in their relationship, regardless of whether they're married or single. Luxury Love is a dating course. So it's just for people who are still looking for their person. So if you want access to Luxury Love, it's inside of the Unforgettable Woman Formula. There's a link to it there. And yeah, so, and then if you're wanting like more intensive, you know, rapid transformation help in any of these areas, book a one-on-one session with me and we can get into it. And the way it works is I will meet with you. We'll talk about whatever you want, pick a life area that you're currently struggling with, and we'll get to the root cause of what is causing you to struggle in that life area. And then I will work with you on how to quickly make a shift so that it doesn't continue to stop you from getting what you want, whether it's in your health, your relationships, your career, or any other area of life, spirituality, finances, whatever. So that is all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please share it with someone who you feel like could benefit from this message. And if you feel like something really, you know, helps you have an aha moment, or there's something you disagreed with or whatever, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. So please let me know, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.